this thing on. What is happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic start to your week. Happy Tuesday. Something you don't really hear too often, man. Happy Tuesday. Tuesday's one of those days where it just starts the grind. You know, you just kind of survive the Monday, and then Tuesday shows up, and you know, you got a lot of ground to cover. At least that's what my life is like these days. Anyway, hope everybody's having a fantastic start to your week. One thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. So one thing that comes up fairly regularly, and it's something that I'm probably going to be putting a video together on here pretty soon, is this old school Mopar versus new school Mopar. And what even makes it worse is it's always old school Hemi guy that has something to say about it. And what I mean by it is, well, the new Hemi isn't a real Hemi, and you guys know that whole argument. So I don't know. This has been coming up more often lately, and it's been kind of cracking me up. And I had done a video a while back on the 392 and how I thought that car was, or that engine rather, is a very special engine. It's something that, you know, realistically, you know, brought Mopar back into the fold. And yeah, it's kind of harkening back to some, you know, I guess you could call it nostalgia, you know, tugging on the heartstrings of old school Hemi guys. What's up, Slime Cuda? Got the 2 thumbs up. I like it. But the reality is that that platform had its time and had its moment in the sun. And there's some folks who just cannot seem to let it go. Namely Mopar themselves. In a way, you know, it's not really bad form to, you know, come back to that way of thinking about things. Michael Corleone in the house. What up? Got thumbs up. You know, and kind of tugging on that nostalgia thing. But one of the things that's been driving me absolutely batty is this intermittent comment that keeps coming up of it's not a real Hemi. It's not, you know, NHRA doesn't use it, or, you know, whatever else the case is. There's a lot that goes into it. Like I said, I'll be putting a video up here pretty soon, kind of calling some of those folks out a little bit. Basically, you know, breaking them down with an STFU moment. Let's see. Tance coming in and saying, "What up, Mr. Mason? Hellcats looking killer." Thank you very much. I need to put the drag pack on her. We will be going to the drag strip this Friday. It looks like weather's going to be nice. Hopefully DA is going to be around 2,000. Want to get some A-B comparisons on these lighter weight pulleys, see how they perform, you know, basically versus stock. And again, I'm not looking to get any real gains here, but it is kind of interesting. You know, it did, you know, get a little cut up in the process of putting that thing together. So at least want to see that, I don't know, maybe some kind of fruits of my labor. But the reality is that I'm not really expecting too much. Again, I'm going to be going down there to really work more on reaction time, see how the car, in terms of, you know, deep staging and shallow staging, how the thing likes to launch on the tree. That's the main idea, really, and that's what you do this time of year. I mean, you're obviously not trying to go for any records, and, you know, unless you're doing some kind of getting too far in terms of ET this time of year. That said, though, it's still a lot of fun getting the things out there and run them down the drag strip. And it's kind of impressed me so far at this point, seeing these things running, you know, 1070s, 1080s, 1090s, basically still 10-second quarter miles for basically stock cars on a tire. It's pretty impressive, and we've been running into more and more Mopars at the drag strip lately. Lots of guys are buying Hellcats now. It's funny that, you know, these cars are coming up on the used market. There's a lot of guys that are kind of falling in the same camp that I am, where, you know, they initially had bought a Scat Pack or initially bought an SRT contraption, whatever it was, and have had it for 2-3 years, whatever the case is, and they're now buying up some of these Hellcats that are coming up for sale. And in talking to them, a lot of their stories are kind of the same, where, you know, they took their they took their 392 about as far as they wanted to take it in terms of finances. And I've been finding that more and more to be the case. And so, you know, that's at least been the 2 or 3 guys that I've talked to so far. That's basically been the identical story that I've been hearing. But I haven't seen a lot of 392 cars at the track lately. A lot of them have been, a lot of the Mopar have been basically Hellcats. So, but seeing a lot of them there in the 10s, which is always good. Let's see, we've got some folks in. Natalie Dayton saying, "What's up, brother? What's up?" Let's see. Transfer Miss Mason, Hellcats Looking Killer. Oh, missed that. Yes. Saying, heck yeah. We have the Mid-American Mustang and Shelby show this coming weekend where I live. They go out to drags, autocross, and car shows. It's going to be sweet. That is going to be a good time. Fast Man said, "Hey, Brian, got those TBA idlers on the way. I like it. Don't forget the tips video if you haven't seen it on installing those idlers on your Hellcat. If you don't have a second set of hands, a set of ramps is going to be really important as far as getting that supercharger pulley back on the car. The trick with the zip ties as far as holding that wrench over and zip tying it to your thermostat housing to keep the tension on the tensioner so you can run underneath there and pop that belt on that lower pulley. Trust me when I tell you that will save you a lot of this and a lot of knuckles busted and all that other good stuff. Trust me on that. I like them. And like I say, I've driven the car. You know, again, I'm not immune from the placebo effect. Of course, the car feels like it runs strong either way. So, yeah, but glad to hear that. And keep me posted, man. I want to hear about your experience putting those in. But again, zip ties will be your new best friend as far as putting that thing together. Trust me on that. Let's see. Natalie's asking thoughts on the RB lightweight rotors for my Scat. 4-piston says each will lose around 8 pounds each. Track time improvement. Yeah, I mean, you're looking to save close to 20 pounds off the front of the car. I've heard you've got those rotors, and also a company called Demon makes a set of rotors also for you Hellcat and SRT owners. And those, I believe, also shave about 8 or 9 pounds a piece off the front of your car. They're certainly not cheap. However, if you need new rotors, you might as well go with a little bit lighter weight component. And they seem to hold up just fine. So yeah, I'd say go for it. I wouldn't see any problem with those whatsoever. Let's see. Oh, hang on a second. Fast Man saying, yep, told me. Yeah, again, just budget the better part of a day. Take your time. You know, a 6-pack of your favorite beverage and you'll be through it in no time. Just don't forget the Loctite and don't forget the zip tie. Slime Q's asking, what's that under the hood next to the socket wrench? Oh, that would be. So yeah, that's what that is. Basically, it still has all the stuff underneath the hood. I haven't even gotten around to putting anything up yet. It's been a little bit hectic, but yeah, that's just some remnants of that kind of afterglow video that I put together on that. Let's see. Blackbird saying, what up, B. Mason? What up, Blackbird? Saying, what's your opinion on Illinois Motorsports Hellcat upgrades? I'll get to that in a minute. They just released a new Trackhawk package, ported heads and cam, along with their other packages. 1150, they made 955 horsepower. So, I don't want to speak out of turn about Livernois. I can only tell you what I have experienced firsthand. Livernois had brought to market a flex fuel tune, flex fuel, you know, air quotes here, that it didn't really work as advertised. I would trust them just fine on a normal tune, tune the thing on E85, let it rip, whatever the case is, but I would never say that their flex fuel tune worked. In fact, it had a real weird issue. This is on a customer's Trackhawk, by the way, on hot starts. And I had brought it to Pikes to try to work through it. And, you know, we basically said, look, you know, we don't want to get in the middle of this. You need to get with Livernois and have them sort it out. And you know this whole story where, we've got 20 of these things and we don't have any problems except the one that you've got. So I don't know, man. Might have been something weird with that Trackhawk. Could have been something, you know, in the tune. I have no idea. Livern always makes some great stuff, and I will never downplay them. It's just that one issue that they had, I think, with that Trackhawk. See, Tan Sam saying, I'm going to take my 14 GT500 and enjoy, but this summer I'm thinking about selling it for a Hellcat. Man, I'll tell you something. I get it. Okay, so Hellcat stuff to be all around. I love GT500s for what they are. I did not own a Hellcat. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I love GT500. So, but I like the Hellcat more. I cannot say enough good things, and as much fun as I've had with this Hellcat, I just couldn't imagine getting rid of it. But if I ever did get rid of it, it would almost have to be for, you know, if I'm getting something modern, it'd be for a GT500. Speed Freaks checking in and saying, hey, B, being a previous Fox body guy, as we all are, my friend, I just came across a 92 notch with a built small block Chevy swap turbo 400 430 gear. What a beast. I miss those cars, man. I'll tell you what, that was the ultimate engine swap platform. There are guys putting all kinds of stuff in Fox bodies back in the day. I love Fox bodies, and I don't think that love affair will ever go away. You know, the funny thing about the Fox body is, you know, say what you will about the modern stuff, how fast they are, and they do this well and that well. You can build a Fox body just to do anything and everything under the sun, and it will be competitive no matter what you do. And really all you got to do is change tires, and you can have a drag race car, a road race car, an autocross car, street cruiser, whatever blows your hair back, you can build one out of a Fox body, and you can do it pretty much on the cheap. Jonathan's saying, howdy, Mr. Mason. Howdy, Jonathan. Hope you're doing well. Junior's checking in saying, hi, B. Mason, did you spray paint your Hellcat from white to red? No, that is an actual Hellcat sitting behind me. My SRT is what I had before this car, and it was white, so good eye on that. Jonathan's asking, starting his first Diablo tune, and my log is saying that I've got quite a bit of knock. You probably do. It's false knock. Tuner says I need to look for metal on metal contact and empty my tank and refill. Does that jive? Yes, sorta. So if you've got a Hemi, it's going to have false knock. That's just kind of part of it. But what he's talking about, metal on metal contact, is anything that could be rattling around, touching, anything going on in the engine compartment. Motor mounts being slightly worn can cause an issue, or actually they'd have to be pretty darn worn to cause that issue. But anything rubbing, anything touching, anything like that, you need to look for. Absolutely make sure you're running quality fuel, 93 octane when you're getting a tune. But the main thing, it just depends on how much knock you're getting. But I've seen stock Hemis pull 2-3 degrees of timing just driving down the road at cruise, as a matter of fact. And that was my truck that was doing that, along with a couple other cars that I've tested. Just in terms of data logging a stock car, it's a known issue with Hemis, and it's just something that they do, something you need to look out for. One thing you might want to look at is make sure that you don't have the Hemi tick. Make sure that you don't have any exhaust manifold bolts missing or anything like that. That can also freak out a knock sensor and give you a fit. Let's see. Bob Fish is saying only replace with ZR1 or yeah, I see him talking about the C8. Yeah, that's actually a really fun car, and that would be up on the list as well. But man, I gotta tell you, GT500s, just there's something about them, you know, having something that is just that rowdy. I don't know. I love GT500s. They're really not great drag cars. I would never put them on a closed circuit, but they live in, how do I put this? For me, in my head, they live in a completely different compartment where it is a true street brawler, street hot rod that, you know, it is a lot more show than it is. Well, it has plenty of go. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I don't know. There's the legend kind of precedes it a little bit. Plus, they're just a freaking riot to drive. Dora, damn, thank you very much. Contribution to the cause, 20. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I didn't have a question though, but thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Contribution to Project Revlon. Next on the agenda, unlocking PCM. Might be another reason why there's tools sitting over there. But thank you very much, man. I really do appreciate that. Justin saying, what's crack like B? Love all the new content. Thank you very much. Yeah, be on the lookout. We're going to be doing some track chat on Friday as well. Doran, thank you again, my friend. Justin's asking, is it normal to hear your valve train during cruising? Not squeezing nor excessively loud, but sound nonetheless. No, not really. I mean, it'll sound like a sewing machine underneath there, but I don't think that you should be hearing your valve train. If you're hearing valve train and it's an intermittent, if it's something that comes on D-cell that goes away under the application of throttle, it's probably a lifter going bad and you need to get that checked out. But no, it's not normal to hear valve train at cruise. I will say this though, you may be hearing something that you think is valve train and it's not. These cars, because they have shorty headers, if you ever look at them, they've got kind of a clamshell of heat insulation around them. But even with that, you'll still get a little bit of a tinny sound out of them, and it's just a function of having basically headers on a stock car. This one is a little bit exhaust, kind of a tinny exhaust sound. You might be mistaking that for valve train noise. I'd be willing to bet. And you probably hear it at low RPM cruise, and especially if you have the windows down, that's probably when you're hearing it the most. You know what? I take it back. My SRT did it, especially without having cats on the car. That's really where you'll hear it, is if you don't have cats on the car. But this one, even with the stock cats, does have a little bit of that sound to it. And again, it's just the way that it sounds underneath the car. Best way to hear it is if you have the car idling and you stick your head right about there, and you'll hear it more pronouncedly there. Jason's asking, hey B, what can I do to get an extra 20 to 40 horsepower out of his 92 without doing major mods / tune that can void my warranty? Man, you know, you're not going to get there. You're not going to get 20 to 40 on just minor stuff. Now, a ported intake, a little bit larger throttle body will help. And I would say that is about the extent of what I would do with the car, aside from putting a Hellcat air filter in that 392's air box, or just going with a Hellcat lower box in general. That'll help things as well. But and you know, you're looking at maybe 10 horsepower in total there on a great day. But the reality is that you're just not going to be able to pick up a lot of power with minor bolt-ons on those cars. And even with a tune, the 20 horsepower is a pretty big ask. However, they pick up 20 horsepower and 20 odd foot-pounds of torque all the way across the board. Another funny thing, yeah, what the hell was that? Another funny thing about the 392 is that the gains that you get on the dyno are over-exaggerated on the drag strip. When my car was all said and done, guys, you got to remember, I think my car had the lowest horsepower of any other 392 that went on that dyno, all mods considered, and it was making 430 something to the rear wheels. When stock, it was making like 410. But the car went from running, 1190s, or I should say 1220, 12.0 stock in that range, and then basically started going mid to low 11s after I got the tune and was running a tire on the car. So don't let that number get to you. That tune plus the trans tune will make a huge difference. Jonathan saying, thanks Mr. B, thank you very much. Jamil is saying, how much power should a 93 octane to 285 pulley Hellcat make at the rear wheels? On a dyno jet, 285 on 93, I don't want to see any more than about 685, at least on a Mustang dyno. 685, 690, you start to get into a weird spot with Hellcats above that 700 horsepower range, and a lot of it just has to do with weight and fuel quality on 93 octane. But you know, a 285 will pick up about 60 to 70 horsepower ish, all things considered, as long as it's out of cat overtemp. On a cool down pass, you might see as much as 700, but I would say 685 be about a good solid rough estimate. One thing about that, by the way, is that it livens the car up a little bit, but it's funny. Don't expect a huge feel, like a feel of the car difference. You're not going to see that with a 285 and a stock lower. But if you do go 285, please, whatever you do, make sure you get that stock lower pulley. Doran, there he is, saying, what's up, B? 2017 Challenger Scat Pack. What do you think about the drop-in pistons and rods, a Whipple, and then take her up to 700 wheel max? Just don't want to sell her, but want more power. It's a good way to go. You know, here's my thing, and this is where a lot of guys are right now with their Scat Packs. They've had them for a while. Good topic of conversation, by the way. A lot of guys have had their cars now for a while. What they've been able to get out of the car has basically, you know, lost its flavor. They're looking to spice it up a little bit. So drop-in pistons and rods are great. Molnar is the best way to go in that regard. Running a Whipple on low boost with about 10.5 to 1 compression on 93 octane with a decent cam, lifters, push rods, and obviously a limiter is going to come into play there. You can get the car to pretty close to, I don't know about 700, unless you're talking about a dyno jet. I'd say on a Mustang dyno, you're going to want to hover somewhere around the 625, 630 range with that Whipple, just to keep everything cool, safe, and happy with your transmission. And, you know, because you got to remember, you got a heavy car that you're working with. That's really kind of a sweet spot for those cars. Now, if you're running stock tires, or, you know, like a Nitto Tri-5R on the back of the car, then, you know, you're not going to have any problems because you're just going to basically light those tires up. Your tire's going to be the fusible link, so to speak, in terms of breaking parts. However, getting back to the topic, yeah, absolutely. Drop-in pistons and rods, the Molnar pistons and rods will get you right where you need to be. You can go Whipple, you can go with the new E-Force kit, which uses that 2650 compressor. Great setup. You're going to need an aftermarket tune though, because that into play. So, if it's my money that I'm spending, it just depends on where you are in that Scat Pack and, you know, mileage and everything else. It might be good to find you a Hellcat. There's a lot of nice ones out on the market, but you can make that 392 a screamer. It is just going to take some money to get it there, and to get it there in a, well, to keep it durable. I'll just say that. Bob Fish is saying, thinking of dual pulley swap with thermostat injectors. You run on E85. What do you think? Well, that's the way to do it. Number one, I mean, if you're going to do it that way. You know, you're going to need a fuel system to go along with that, though, and so just keep that in the back of your mind when you're budgeting this. Injected Engineering has an awesome kit for Hellcats where it's just basically it's a plug and play dual pump that fits right into the stock lines. You can make, you know, roughly 1,200 horsepower at the crank, roughly, I'd say safely 1,100, about 900 of the rear wheels on a Mustang dyno on that kit, I think would be doable. And I mean, that's all, I mean, you're all over mid to low nines at that point. So I guess really the point of that is, yeah, do it. If it's my car, Hellcat, I go Innovators West lower. If you're at lower altitudes, a little bit higher altitudes, go with the ATI. It's slightly larger. You're going to cheat the boost a little bit with the ATI for the higher altitude guys. And a 275 upper, it's kind of a tried and true combination that is, well, basically it's your garden variety 9-second package. Injected engineering pumps, Pikes performance tunes on the engine and transmission, 275 upper, ATI or Innovators West lower, fuel injector connection, 127 pound injectors, cat delete, send it. It's a 9-second car all day, every day on a decent tire. And it's durable too. Oh, don't forget your drive shaft and your half shafts if you already have one. Doran's saying it's an A8. Yeah, man. Look, so here's the thing, brother. You can get away with it. You can get away with more power. I'll give you an example. Mustang dyno, car with a Whipple. I would say limit the power to about 575 to 600 to the rear wheels. If you're going to be beating on the car, that's where I would leave it. Just my experience with them shows that that's really the extent that you can get out of it before you start having issues in a short amount of time with your transmission. Again, you can cheat that up a little bit, and it's not to say that your transmission is going to turn itself into, a bowl of hot oily parts all over the place. But the fact of the matter is that you can really only get away with so much before things start going south. And really the idea is to keep these things fun. Putting a little bit of a limit with that HP70 is always a good idea. Now, the argument is, well, you just build the HP70, and I think somebody's coming out with an HP90 swap kit. Still not 100% who's doing that yet, but either way you look at it, that is pricey, man. That's still really pricey, and that is going to involve transmission tuning after the fact anyway. So you start stacking up all this money, and you start looking at it from that point of view, you just go, damn, man, this is starting to get a little bit more pricey than it should. And then you've got to look at it from a bit more of a pragmatic point of view of, okay, well, if I'm looking at this from a financial investment, because anytime money changes hands, that's a financial investment. So if I'm going to start putting this kind of money into that car, what is it going to run in terms of ET? What's the durability going to be? And if I want to get something later, can I recover a portion of that money? As opposed to finding a Hellcat that's out there that, we've already proven with Revlon that with hardly anything done to it, it's a mid 10-second car. So the proof's kind of in the pudding when it comes to that stuff. So I like the 392 in naturally aspirated form, personally. That's my comfort level with the 392. And the 392 with a cam, some weight reduction, lightweight wheel and tire package, ported intake, ported throttle body. Again, a solid cam package. Heads don't really need to be touched, but long tube headers, that whole route, you can, maybe, while the heads are off of them, have them cleaned up, valve job, maybe shave 10,000ths off of the heads just to creep compression up just a little bit, basically just a clean up, blueprint the thing, basically is what I'm saying. With that camshaft, again, you'll have a low 11-second car that may even get into the 10s in deep DA, especially with some weight reduction. That's where I like to see the 392s. That's where they're the most exciting for me, and that's the most raw experience you're going to get out of that car. Symphonic saying, had a string of great weather up here in New York and driving a lot. Why does every four-banger with a fart cannon have to rev at me everywhere I go? Can't be just me. No, they give everybody the fits. Believe me. Felix is saying, yeah, you're answering my questions as I type them. I like that, brother. Jeb B saying, hey, bud. What's up, Jeb? Symphonic saying, my lord, they sound so bad. Do they really think they... Symphonic saying, my lord, they sound so bad. Do they really think they sound good? Man, of course they do. And it's faster because it's louder, right? SRT Craig saying, what up, B? How you doing tonight? Doing well, man. Hope you're having the same. Say, I really like the new 1320 Challenger and shares a lot of the same performance components as a Demon. Have you seen it and wondered what you thought about it, if so? Yeah, I think I put a video, I might have put a video on that. If I did, it was kind of a minor video that I threw together, but I like the 1320. The problem the 1320 is going to have is, well, you can buy a base model Scat Pack for significantly less and get out there and give every 1320 that's running around a fit. Now, granted, you don't get a two-step, and you don't get, you know, other things that the 1320 has, namely, you know, the suspension settings and all of that. But at that power level and at that weight, all of those things are really a bit more gimmicky than anything else. Now, that being said, there are guys out there right now running around with those cars that are running 1150s, which is great, especially in this DA. That car might be an 1120, 11 car from the factory, the way that it sits. So can't really fault them for that. Now, and that's in super low DA, by the way, drag pack, that whole bit. But you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I like the car. I just would say that if you're going to get one, know what you're getting and know where your money's being spent. I think the car is going to be kind of a rare car. I think a lot of people are going to look at it and think that it's a little bit more gimmicky than they want to, you know, and I don't know that they're going to want to invest their money in that when they know they can get a Scat Pack core for significantly less and get out there and have a ball. But if you can find a dealership that's not trying to, you know, rake you over the coals on the price of it, I'd say it'd be a fun car nonetheless. Hang on just a second. Hang on. Time out. Bye, Fish. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that donation to the cause, brother. Thank you very much. Project Redline. Project Unlock is what's next. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that, man. Let's see. Doran's asking, so just so I have the spelling, will you please tell me the drop-in setup you like and the alternative to the Whipple, where to buy? It's Molnar, it's Molnar is the drop-in pistons and rods. Modern Muscle has them, HHP has them as well. Give Josh a shout over at HHP, he can get you set up. And the alternative to the Whipple is the Edelbrock E-Force supercharger kit. Super clean little kit, and makes good power, easy to install. There's not a lot of work has been done on Edelbrock's side to make sure that it's a plug-and-play type of a unit. I like that aspect of it. Plus, it's efficient enough to where you can still pulley it up. You can get more power out of it, absolutely. I would still suggest a tune, even though it's going to come with a tune, because you're going to get, you're not going to get the tuner kit, you're going to get the install kit. Get that through Edelbrock, by the way, but that tune is going to be soft, so I highly suggest going with a tune after you get that thing installed. And by the way, don't forget, if you're doing the drop-in kit, go ahead. Depending on your mileage, it'll take a little bit more time, but send your engine to a machine shop. Have the block decked. Make sure that you, this is going to be the time to spend, to spend some money on machine work, making sure everything is flat, proper, and the way it should be. I'd probably also suggest going 10 over on your stock block just to make sure everything is the way that it should be, and then getting the 10 over pistons. If that's not in the budget, that's cool. Don't sweat it. Basically pull the engine out, get the thing set up, and then go with the stock size on the pistons. White Knuckle saying, what up, B? What up, White Knuckle saying, I hear you on the, that tinny sound with the headers. I have long tubes and cab delete, and I hear it big time. Doesn't sound like valve train, though. Yeah, that's the thing. It's, if you're listening for something, everything sounds like what you're listening for, but I get where he's coming from. Yeah, it is a bit of a tinny sound, but no, it's nothing. It sounds nothing like valve train. But you could be easily mistaken for it, I guess. Felix saying, Symphonics, I'm in New York and drive a four-banger Evo 9. Yeah, Evo 9's kind of a Evo 9. Yeah, Evo 9's kind of a Evo 9 gets a kitchen pass on that. I think Symphonics is mainly talking about, you know, Civics and stuff like that. But no, Evos always get a pass with me. I love those cars. Evos and well, any WRX, but Evos for sure, and any SRT4. Oh, here we go. Justin saying, ended up installing the Carlisle Demon Killer springs he recommended on my 300. It ended up not making my launches more spirited, but it lowered my rear end substantially, and I'm loving it. Thanks. Absolutely. What the hell was that? All right. Sorry, I missed my spot here. Glad you are liking those, brother. Rip33 saying, hey, B. What up, Rip? Joe saying, can you tell me what the best throttle body for the 392 would be? Absolutely. It is a Fastman, true ported, stock throttle body, not the MMX thing where they just grind off the outsides. You want to go with a Fastman, true through ported 84 millimeter throttle body. That is the absolute best one you can get. Speed Freak saying, hey B, can you explain how, I think he's talking about beadlock, how beadlock wheels work. Looks like an outer ring against the wheel with a bunch of screws to pinch the sidewall and hold it in place. That's exactly what it is. So the way that a beadlock works is you've got the bead on the tire. I don't have a tire out here. Anyway, you got a bead on the tire, and typically the bead is just held in by, well, it's a more or less an interference fit because you're seating the bead in the wheel. What a beadlock does is it takes a piece of plate on the outside and crimps that bead to the wheel itself and locks it in place and gives it a true mechanical holding force, as opposed to just the tire and the strength of the bead holding it onto the wheel. Basically, you're pulling that bead onto the wheel on a normal wheel, and with a bead lock, depending on the bead lock setup, you're using a clamping force to hold that bead against the wheel. There's Bob Fish again. Thank you very much. I appreciate the donation. Rip is saying, I just ordered myself a Hellcat burn box. How much do you think that would help with the cool down and the line lock? Line lock is useless. But the cool down is a major feature, and I use the hell out of mine. So, but word to the wise though, when you're using that thing, only use it for about 5 minutes or so, and then let your battery recover. If you let the thing run and run and run, especially with a stock battery, you'll get that thing down past its ability to start the car again. Run that thing for about 5 minutes, and you'd be surprised how quickly it'll drop your temperatures. Let it sit, keep the hood open. Right after your pass, I'd say let it run for about 5 minutes, and then let it run for maybe 3 or 4 minutes before you take it up into the staging lanes. But I like mine a lot. And now that I've got this Archangel battery, I just let the thing run. I run mine on high for about 5 minutes, and it'll drop the temperatures. When it had the stock thermostat, it would drop them from 203 to 210 down to, say, 185 in the span of like 3 or 4 minutes. It drops them real quickly. Bradley's saying, I have a question on headers for my Scat Pack Charger. Does it matter what brand? Yes, it matters what brand. Get you a set of Cook's headers. Absolutely. And the thing with headers is you really do get what you pay for. Cook's, though, is not as expensive, I think, as they should be. I'll put it to you like this. The Cook's headers, the value per dollar based on quality and fitment is the highest in the industry. And that's the highest praise I can give any manufacturer. And I don't even have any of them, but I have been around a lot of them. G-Rockin', my man, saying, well, I got beat by my friend's 2017 SS Camaro A8 versus my 6-speed Cat, but she only got me by 0.07 of a second. But I will say this, she only weighs maybe 100 pounds and her car is lighter. Absolutely. Yeah, I tell you what, man. Well, it's a good race though, right? I mean, and that's the funny thing. You know, the Camaro is significantly lighter, and you know, let's face it, that makes a big difference. But yeah, especially if you've got a girl driving and only weighs about 100 pounds. Yeah, I can see that for sure. Slime Cuda is asking, at higher elevation, hot desert, is Metco 265 pulley with innovators lower okay, or should I stick with 275? Planning to go E85 with pumps injectors tuned for Hellcat drag and weekend car. At higher elevation, especially if you're in the high desert, I think you'd be okay with a 265. However, I will still err on the side of caution and go with a 275. You can probably get away with a 265. My only concern on that, even on E85, is going to be the quality of E85 that you're going to be getting up there. So make sure you are testing it. But typically the 275, so I'll put it to you like this. At the drag strip, there is no difference between 265 and 275 going down the track. None. Nothing whatsoever. The 265, if it does pick up any boost, it's very, very minor. What I like about the 275 is that it seems to be a little bit less finicky when it comes to fuel quality, even with some funky E85. We've run into that with cars on the dyno. We run into that issue with a couple of Hellcats at the track. So take that for what it's worth. I prefer the 275 because it is a known combination that just absolutely works like a freaking charm. The 265 does as well, but again, you know, you start to get into some belt wrap questionable, you know, type situations with that, and the 275 just works. Depending on the exact elevation that you're at, I'd say if you're above, you know, 4,000 feet, 265 will be just fine though for you. Oh, G-Rock can say, by the way, hit me up on Instagram if you would like for me to hook you up on some ceramic coating. I will be doing that, brother. I gotta get this thing a little bit of love. I need to do a bit of a paint correction. This is what's funny about my car is that it sat in a garage and never moved, I think. So, but even sitting, I've still had to do a little bit of work to it. But I will be giving you a shout for sure, brother. I appreciate that. I will take you up on that. Let's see. SRT Crazy. Talking about Symphonic, saying I hear you, and do the same every time when they see me in his Challenger SRT8. It's silly, although they never do it when they're beside you. If you might have to actually throw down, that's funny. Ray Perez saying, try Texas Speed and Performance headers for the Hellcat. They are really good quality. Texas Speed is good too. I've seen them and they are good, but for the value that you get from the Cooks headers, I think the value and the quality of the Cooks is going to be better. They're not as, well, the Texas Speed headers are less expensive, but again, man, it's tough to beat Cooks. Shawnee's saying, hey, B. Saying, hi, Mopar man, what's up, man? Shawnee is saying, oh, here we go. Shawnee's saying, Fastman throttle body added 6 horsepower and 2 torque at the wheels to my 392 and no other mods. I'm very happy with the product. The thing I liked about that Fastman throttle body also is just the crispness of the throttle over the stock throttle body. That's something that, I mean, hell, if my car didn't pick up anything, it was worth it just to have the throttle response on the thing. Justin is asking, hey, B, did you buy your race stars with TPMS sensors? No, I did not. Asking, if not, did you add them? Nope, I didn't. The cluster light going off grinds my gears. Yeah, I hear you, man. No, I didn't, but mine are just temporary use, and it doesn't really bother me too much, although it is a little bit of a nuisance when I'm scrolling through to hit my cool down feature, but you know, typically I just hit the on button. It'll sit there for, you know, 10 or 15 seconds or whatever it is while I'm doing something else. I'll scroll through the audio and just make sure I'm on the right setting. But hell, even now at this point, I mean, I've gotten to the point where I just click, 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 and it's a done deal, and I just walk away from the car and it's done. So I'm so used to seeing it, I look right past it. I don't even notice it anymore. Triple Threat saying, hello, Mr. B. Hello, Triple Threat. Shawnee's saying, my long tube headers are Cooks, my 392. They add a little bit of exhaust noise, very nice, and they also added a tad of engine noise under the hood. Seems to make the push rod noise a lot louder. Yes, it does. You hear them go all the time with those long tubes. I'd say, but I like the sound of a push rod motor. So do I. Kid us the minutes. Yes, on Cook's headers, for sure. Oh, Rift is saying, I wish I could go with some headers, but here in California, it's hard to find any that I can still smog with. Yeah, that does make it tough up there, man. Oh, damn, Riff, thank you very much. Just saw that. Just came through saying, I think I'm going to stick with the 285 Hellraiser pulley with the 91 octane here. Yeah, that's exactly what I would do, especially with 91 octane. Yeah, don't try to cheat them. The funny thing, okay, so here's the kind of the weird thing with these cars on gasoline. So 91, 93, if you've got it in your area, ethanol free 91. The funny thing with these cars is if you stick to the recipe, they will love you forever. If you try to get greedy, try to go off the menu a little bit, that's when these cars will literally just let go on you. And that's something that I've tried to convey, and hopefully I have, is that if you stick with what works with the Hellcat, you will be rewarded with a car that is an extremely strong performer and will actually, it'll punch well above its weight class in terms of modded cars. And I've even noticed, I mean, even with my car being stock, my Hellcat has beaten cars that it shouldn't have. And again, with minor modifications, I know I can get another half second out of this thing, but I don't want to get too greedy with it. And I've seen what happens after the fact. I've seen what happens when guys have tried to go a little bit more, you know, that little bit extra that always seems to, well, quite frankly, it seems to work just fine in the short term, but it's that long term that gets you, especially in those low density altitude days. Excuse me. But thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. And you're on the right track with that, by the way. Shawnee is saying, I also run high flow cats. I don't need the smell of raw fuel everywhere when I idle my car. I'm older now. I understand that completely. Didn't mind it in my 20s and 30s with off-road exhaust. I will say this. The funny thing about that, so the Hellcats, this is, you know, Hellcat specific here. We have tested catalytic converters. This is at the drag strip. I'm not worried about dynos here. Real world applications at the drag strip with catalytic converters and without catalytic converters. With a tune for to kill catalytic converter overtemp with cat delete pipe versus tuned but with cat overtemp protection in full effect, stock settings, the whole bit. The difference in ET is goose egg, nothing. The car ran the exact same times in the exact same DA with the cats on the car versus with the cats off the car. Leave the cats on the car, you'll do just fine. And it does two things. One, on the Hellcats especially, on the 392s it does help a little bit in this respect too, but on the Hellcats, it chills out the exhaust note a little bit. You don't get that rasp out of it. But the other thing is you don't have the, you know, the smell of raw fuel, which really isn't that bad with modern cars. Older cars will get a little bit funky, but I never really ran into too big of an issue, or I just didn't notice it. Maybe I'm a little bit less, you know, I'm around it so much, I'm probably just numb from it. Those sensors in my nose have been burned off, but so you don't get the raw fuel smell. And the last and probably most important thing is it keeps the car legal no matter what. So, but yeah, I mean, and this is a car, by the way, very well sorted out Hellcat, stock boost level. The car was going, mid-tens, whether it had cats on it or not. In fact, the car's quickest pass ever so pretty good DA, but not, freak out DA. I think that car went a low 1040, and that's with the stock cats on the car with cat protection. So that's kind of where I fall in line with catalytic converters. The only time I see cat deletes being really useful is when you're really turning up the power. And that's really, at that point, there's only so much you can do to protect the catalytic converters, and then they've got to go away or else you're going to fry them. That's even with metal substrate catalytic converters. But, I mean, up to, I don't know, 800 horsepower at the crank, they'll do just fine. Rich is saying, so I'm curious why you think that the line lock feature is useless on the burn box. The reason why is because you've got to kind of sift through it a little bit to get to the feature. I just go up, put the car in manual mode, get the tire, get the tires rotated in the water box, pull out about 6 feet, get the wheels spinning in first, blip it into second, roll into the throttle and hold it at 5 grand, my foot on the brake for about 6 seconds. It takes me less time to do that than it does for me to go through on the Taser, find the feature, and all of that being said, what will happen on the Taser is when your suspension on some cars. Anyway, the long and short of it is you'll get back in street mode once you get out of it. So it's kind of a quirk with that thing, and most of us that have them, we only use the cool down feature and just foot brake, do the burnout. You're not in it very long, and my goodness, I had hundreds of passes on my SRT, and the brake pads, rear brake pads, never showed any real wear. So, see, White Knuckle saying, hey, B, the Taser has an option to shut the TPS off. Really? Sweet. I've only just used it for the cool down, to be honest with you. I never really got too much into it. That's cool. Symphonic saying, what mods would I have to invest in my LS3 A6 Vet to keep ahead of the new 18 GT A10s at the drag strip? Not much. Long tube headers, a tune, throttle body, high flow cats. That's about it. And that'll be a solid probably 35 to 40 horsepower jump because it's an LS, and just staring at it sideways will make that thing pick up some power. But yeah, you don't have to do too much. That'll put you right where you need to be. And a sticky tire too. Joe is saying, thanks, I'll look into the Fastman throttle body. Will it improve my miles per gallon, or will it take a hit? Won't affect it one way or another. I'm running Hellcat Airbox. Good idea. Very well done. Plan on doing exhaust soon, but for now, bone stock with Hellcat filter. You don't need much more than that. Rip saying, I just got a muffler delete on my Hellcat when I put the one-piece drive shaft on. Surprised how loud it is now. Yeah, no kidding, right? Funny how they get significantly loud, and you wouldn't think that it would. I'll tell you what, what kills the Hellcat in terms of sound is really that cat delete. Well, they have this real, it's like a sour, shrill sound to them. What sounds good, so cat delete with stock sounds good, and I think I may have cat delete with a reso delete sounds a little shrill, but still sounds okay. Keep those mid mufflers though, if you ever plan on getting rid of the cats, for sure. Team Mopar saying, what up, B? What up, Team Mopar? Joe Donkey, also, will doing a muffler delete kill torque or power? I hear from some that it may, it won't, doesn't affect it in the least. I mean, I say that. I mean, obviously it depends mid monthly, you're not gonna have any issues whatsoever. I've never seen one on the dyno or at the drag strip lose power or lose ET. It just picks up sound, and that's it. White Knuckles saying, oh, he's hollering out the Team Mopar saying, how's the G and have you been back to the track lately? Riff saying, not for me. Let's see. Riff saying, it is straight through exhaust, so I don't think it really kills power to get muffler to lead on a Hellcat at least. It is not for me. Yeah, no, it's not going to hurt anything. Shiny is saying exactly. Then Team Mopar saying, I just started data logging tonight, White Knuckle RT. I did take it to the track without a tune. It ran 15.7 at 90 with a DA of 8,600 feet. My God. Surprised that thing even made it to the end of the quarter mile. I'd had to pull over and take a breath about twice on that run. Holy mackerel. Hang on just a second, y'all. Bear with me. I get something to drink. Hang on. Get some shit. Hang on. I'm coming right. All right. And I'm back. Let's see. Yeah, Riff saying that is a big DA. Yeah, that is an obscene density altitude. All right. Yeah, so getting back to it, what are the plans for Revlon next? So, yeah, probably unlocking that computer is what's going to be next. I have started putting a tune together for it for the transmission, but haven't finished it yet. Basically, it's a whole lot of changing a bunch of cells in the transmission tune. It takes me a while to put one of those together, but it will be well worth it, I believe. Let's see. Oh, wait. Team Mopar saying he's up in Colorado. So, yeah, absolutely. And then Joe saying, anybody know if the throttle body will void the warranty? The funny thing about that throttle body, if you go with the Fastman and it's the ported throttle body, I don't know if they're going to go looking for that. As long as you don't mention it, I don't think it's going to come up. But knowing how FCA is and knowing how Dodge is, I mean, chances are it probably will. I mean, you probably wash it with the wrong brand of soap and they'll freaking void your warranty. I'll tell you something too. There's a lot of guys that are finding out that, you know, all of this marketing hype and all this, you know, warm and fuzzy that you get from, you know, Mopar and FCA, they're doing a hell of a lot of, voiding warranties for dumb stuff. So word to the wise as far, you know, we're talking about warranties here. You know, just be careful when you take that thing to the dealership. Anything that is not stock, I would change it back to stock before you take it to the dealership for any warranty work. Team Mopar saying that he ported his throttle body himself. I like that. Symphonic saying, so GM claims a new C8 will be untunable. What say you? That is, well, there's ways around that. And I already know people that are working on that. And why do they even care if people tune them? It's a warrantability issue more than anything else. EPA is on their ass as well. And some things that you have to remember is there's a lot that these engineers are putting into these modern cars. And I think, hit that son, ooh, I got that little bastard. Send that sumbitch right back to hell. I hate mosquitoes, man. 187 on that motherfucker. So anyway, the manufacturers are really kind of starting to run a lot of these engines at a ragged edge. There's only so much that metallurgy can manage. And although people are getting huge horsepower numbers out of LS blocks and, you know, doing this and that to them, the reality is that they just don't last very long once you start getting them into those types of power numbers. And realistically, you know, they're engineering the car to meet a specific power and warrantability goal, and any tuning outside of that is you're gonna limit the longevity of the engine in their mind. And to be honest with you, a lot of the tunes on these cars are already pretty well badass. I mean, look at the 392. Even though if you look at timing figures on a stock 392, they don't look very aggressive. However, strangely enough, the cars don't pick up a ton Now you get more at the drag strip, but the funny thing is on a dyno you just don't see very much. Let's see. But yeah, it's a warranty issue at that point. But the thing is that, I mean, some manufacturers take that just a little bit too far, man. Just a little too far. And the thing about warrantability, when it comes to warranty, it's you're buying future sales when you cover minor stuff like, you know, you're gonna, well, I say minor, let's say you crack a diff, but you know, you've been running slicks on the car. Well, if you fix that diff, chances are that person will buy another Mopar in this case. If you don't, that's probably the last Mopar that person will ever buy. If you fix it, you buy a lifetime customer. If you don't fix it, you buy a lifetime antagonist for your brand. Seems like a pretty decent trade, especially when you're dealing with a $50,000 customer. Rift is saying, with all I've done to my Hellcat, I'm worried about voiding my warranty because my Hellcat is a 2015, and I know that they had bad supercharger bearings. Actually, kind of depends on the build date. There's don't worry so much about that. Depending on the amount of mileage that you've got on your car, most of the time, most of those bearings failed super early in those cars' life. You're looking at before 5,000 to 6,000 miles for the majority of them. Some of them made them to 8, but if you've made it past 8,000 or 9,000 miles, chances are pretty good you're in safe water. So don't worry too much about that. Rip's saying only a matter of time before the bearings go bad. From what I heard, I'm at 10,400 miles into it right now. Actually, no, I've talked to IHI before about that. It was just a bad run of bearings, and actually, the early cars are safe. There was a run. I want to say it was late 2015, early 2016 that actually ran into that problem. There's some 2016s that ran into that as well. So don't worry about that, man. Sean E is saying, Fastman is a stock throttle body that is ported. No real way to void the warranty. Yeah, unless they go looking for it or unless you advertise it, I don't think you're going to have any problems with it. T Mopar is asking, hey B, have you heard about the new CUDA that is coming out? I've heard all kinds of different iterations about that car. You know, modified LX platform. I've heard that it's going to be the Viper replacement, the new Halo car. I've heard a lot of different things about what the new CUDA could be or might be or will be. We're just going to have to see what it ends up actually being. But yeah, I mean, I've heard about it, but until there's anything more substantial left in the kitty, so to speak, I just don't see there being any, anything about the CUDA that's going to be that far removed from anything that we've already seen. And again, different powertrain options and things like that come to mind pretty quickly. It's easy to start to think about that in terms of like a 426 or a different upgraded supercharger or whatever. The thing is that anything that will come out will probably be in 2022. And so we still have some time left on the clock for these things in terms of their relevance by comparison to that new CUDA. But again, I've heard that the CUDA is really going to be more of a Viper replacement than a Challenger or a Charger replacement. But that's about it. Nothing new or exciting yet. One thing I have heard is with the new revised platform, the CUDA could potentially take the place of the Challenger. It would just be a somewhat lighter version of the Challenger. And that's about it. I've also heard the opposite, so I've heard all kinds of crap about that thing, and just like any other rumor, you almost start to wonder what's real and what's not. Let's see, Shawnee's saying, other than my underdrive pulleys and my ported intake and long tube headers and high flow cats and the aluminum drive shaft and rear end brace, computer tuned my car is stock, so I shouldn't have any problem with warranty. Yeah. Just don't say anything. Actually, as long as you don't mess up a anything in the drive line, you should be okay. As long as it doesn't have a tune on it. My car is stock, so I shouldn't have any problem with warranty, as Sean's saying. Riff's saying, I'm definitely thinking about putting the new Elephant crate motor in my Hellcat when I get about 50 grand to 60,000 miles. Once they re-release that, because I think they've sold out of them, there are other options to go with. But yeah, that Elephant as a package, as an engineered package, would be superior to anything that you would get in the aftermarket, in my opinion. Real Racing is asking, can you do a trans tune with no engine tune on a Hellcat? Yes, you can. Don't you need an engine tune to raise the rev limiter? Yeah, you kind of do. You've got actually two rev limiters that you're going to be raising, the engine and the transmission. But technically, yes, you can do a transmission without doing the engine tune. However, you wouldn't be able to raise the rev limits very high. Well, you wouldn't be able to raise them any higher than 6,200 RPM. So technically, yes, but no, you're correct. You would need both to be able to tune the transmission properly. At wide open throttle. Anything that's not wide open throttle, you could still adjust though. Let's see. Alistair was asking, if I get a CEL from catless mid-pipes, will his car run rich? Will it ruin performance? No, it won't really run rich. What it'll do is it will just show that there's a potential issue with the catalytic converter. It might force it into cat overtemp, but I'm not exactly sure on that as a fail-safe, which would cause the car to run rich. But in general terms, I don't think it'll ruin anything in terms of performance. It'll just be real annoying. White Knuckles asking T-Mopar who's doing his tune-in. Jeffrey Bitter say, what up, B? I finally made it back in one of these late nighters. What up, Jeffrey? Rip saying, I was thinking about going with Duster Off when it comes to tuning, the same one that did Demonology. He's good. Pikes is good too. There's very few when it comes to Mopars that I actually recommend. I don't have any personal dealings with Duster Off, but he seems to know what he's up to. He is tuning Demonology, so just have to keep an eye on him and see how his progress is coming along. Beamer fans asking, why did you choose a Challenger Hellcat over a Charger? Part of it has to do with weight. Part of it has to do with the aesthetic of the car itself. And I wanted a two-door and not a four-door. I will say this, though, the Charger is a more solid car when you drive them. Just in terms of feel, closing the doors, and torsional rigidity, they always seem a little bit more solid. Scatpack's asking, do you think 06 to 09 Charger as a daily should be reliable? Should be fairly reliable. I would try to err on the side of something closer to 09. Some of those cars had valve seat issues back in the day. I'm talking about the SRT. Yep. And yeah, I wouldn't get any of them unless it's an SRT. Real Racing's asking, if you do an engine tune with no trans tune, will the car pull timing? Only if you tell it to. It will pull it in for torque management on the shifts, which I do recommend leaving in place. Don't mess with that. I've done all kinds of track testing with torque management at full factory settings and with zero torque management, the whole bit. I've done so much testing with that, and although zero torque management was the quickest of all the passes, it was the quickest of all the passes by like 4,000ths of a second or something like that. It was something ridiculous. I'm sorry, 400ths of a second. It was something stupid like that. It was absolutely not worth pulling all of the torque management out of the transmission. Now, that being said, there are situations with some cars where you have to pull some of the torque management out but you always leave the external torque management in play. In other words, you've got engine torque management and transmission torque management both working in concert. And the most aggressive setting I would ever say to run is kill the internal but leave the external functioning as it normally does. Let's see. White Knuckles asking, hey B, is it possible to tune out the active exhaust so it's open all the time? Yes, it is. That is in your systems tab, if I'm not mistaken. And there is a host of different tuning parameters you can do with those butterflies. But yes, you can tune them to where they're open all the time. Rip is saying, okay, my daughter's heading upstairs with me for a few days. I'm going to take her out and scare her in the Hellcat. Talk to you later. I like it, man. Y'all have fun. Be safe out there. Al's Dream is asking, can I do an engine-only tune in his Hellcat? Absolutely you can. If you're taking the car to the drag strip, I don't really recommend that, though, because to get the most out of the Hellcat, you do need to bump that RPM up a little bit. Rift is saying, if you have not, everyone hit like. We all know he's helped us so many times with our cars. Anyways, once again, y'all have a nice night. Yeah, y'all hit that like button. Real Racing saying, you are the man. Man, I appreciate that. Thank y'all very much. What was I talking about? Let's see. Oh, Jeffrey is saying there's a guy that makes a fixture that keeps them open the whole time. I think it was $150. Yeah, it's this, it's like a clip that goes in there that allows the butterfly to stay open, but lets the motor still go through its checks. There's that option, and the way that that works is you've got to pull the cover off of the motor itself, and you've got to do some work to get that clip in there, but you can mechanically, basically it's a mechanical workaround on the butterflies to keep them open all the time. That is 100% true. And if you get an aftermarket exhaust, you can always just kill the code, and that'll keep the check engine light from coming on. If your exhaust doesn't have the butterflies in, yeah, it's the MFer is the guy that makes it. That's the clip thing for the butterflies. Let's see. Get a timestamp here right at 11. But yeah, so the next, I guess tomorrow night I'm going to get the drag pack on the car, get it all ready to go to the drag strip. Looking to see what she does, and what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to make a couple of hits on 93 and then throw some 100 octane in just for good measure. Slime Cute is saying, hey B, have you thought about doing some more minor Hemi tuning videos? I have thought about that. I may be doing that when I do the transmission tune for this one back here. I haven't done any motor only stuff or anything like that. But not videos anyway. But as far as transmission tuning, some of the things to look out for, areas that you can play with, areas that I don't suggest playing with too much. And again, that's more for torque management and not getting overly aggressive with timing. In the mid-range with these things, trying to keep it away from low-speed spark knock, tip-in spark knock, things like that. But I would, and the thing is, making those videos, I don't have the technology to go in and just pull the, like the screenshot or anything like that. I'm not that technologically advanced. It's kind of embarrassing to say. But, just so I can run you through it. But, yeah, I mean, I'll probably be doing something along those lines. Like these are going to be my shift points. This is what I'm going to do to get away from the 1-2 shift yip that my car gets in lower density altitude conditions. So I'll be looking at that as well. Basically how to tune around that. And that's pretty much about it. There's not going to be a whole lot to do or a whole lot to show. Aside from all the different parameters that I go in and change when I'm putting one of those tunes together. And some tuners will and this is kind of the other thing too. There are guys that will just go in and change one group of parameters and then copy paste and run that all the way down the list. I don't do that. I actually go in and change each individual cell by the percentage that I want to change in terms of shift points, which is more how the original engineers, how they put that whole system together, because then you get into different scenarios where there's times where you don't want the transmission to be that harsh. You want it to be a little bit more sedate, and so there's some other things you can do. But again, not that there's any wrong way to do it, I just take a little bit more of a methodical approach. It takes a little bit longer. I like it a little bit better for me, but it's not to say that what I'm doing is the best. There's other ways to get there, trust me. White Knuckles asking, I would rather have it tuned to stay open or just cut them out completely. Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. And you can hear it. It'll still go through the cycle at startup when you tune them out. But yeah, you can absolutely tune them out and just say default 100% open all the time. Well, default is 100%. And as it goes through different command torque levels, that's what opens and kind of varies the amount that that butterfly is open. But yeah, leaving them open all the time is super easy to do. Jeffrey Bitter saying, yep, just get the heavy duty one. Yeah, that's right. Zachary saying, been gapping 5.0s and SS's with the pedal commander during roll racing with my stock Scat Pack Challenger. What experience do you have with the pedal commander? What are your thoughts on it? Well, the pedal commander, I've installed them on Mercedes and BMWs before, and they work great. What they do is, it's basically just an intercept, and what it's doing is it's telling the computer that driver command torque is higher than what it is on the pedal itself. So if this is your pedal, and just for purposes of conversation, if this is straight up and down, which is dead idle, and that is wide open throttle, you have a linear range that would basically go like this for your throttle, and for most throttle programs. Some of them are a little bit more curved on the bottom. None of them are curved up top. We curved up top would just make it more aggressive. So the pedal commander adjusts the basically that sine wave to where it's more aggressive, and it feels like it's got a little bit more power underfoot than it does. And basically all you're doing is you're changing command torque. That you're not changing much stuff in that throttle body. Let's see. Shawnee's saying, I have a throttle commander on my Scat Pack Challenger. It gives a real nice feel. Feels like factor. Not sure if it's actually faster overall. Certainly not slower. No, it's not making more power. Again, it's just affecting how the car works underfoot. I will say that guys with manual transmissions like them quite a bit too. Makes the car a bit more responsive if you're just blipping the throttle or coming into the throttle on a launch. Zachary is saying, take stock off, given the pedal commander and 305 minnows. Shawnee's saying, sport +4 traction equals deadly. Yeah, that thing comes on a throttle. Shawnee, I run Nittos on my Scat Pack daily. It's nice to pull it in first gear and have a first gear. Yeah, for sure. Samuel Jack saying, what's up, drivers? I like it. White Knuckles saying, do you run 305s on the back? Yes, I do. Do they stick out past the fender? No, they don't. I'm on 275s, and they are close to sticking out. Curious if I go 305s, will it stick out or not? I'm running the Raystar 17x10s. They'll stick out a little bit on the Raystars, I think, because of the offset, but it's like that. It's really not a whole lot. But I've got the street set up on it right now. I got some shit on my work table over here, but yeah, it's on my replicas they don't stick out at all. As a matter of fact, they look pretty good. But yeah, the Raystar, it might stick out just a tad with a 17x10. That would be the Recluse, or the 17x10s. I've got the Raystars, and or if you've seen Recluse, that's what they'll look like. My race stars are 9.5. Oh, Mike is saying just installed leg maker. Wow, thinking of pulley and tune on the cat. Thoughts on reliability and power gain? Well, the leg maker doesn't make any more power. It certainly makes it sound a whole lot better. I love the way leg makers sound on these cars. As far as going pulley and a tune, it depends on the pulley. It depends on who puts the tune on the car. If you go with something like a 285 upper with a stock lower, you're looking at about 60 odd horsepower on 93 octane, and then from there it goes up. But with that leg maker, you have the added benefit of the theater of having that supercharger spool up and making some awesome noise underneath the hood of that car. So yeah, I'd say go for it. And that's the other thing that's fun about Hellcats is, you know, a lot of folks ask about cold air intake. I've tested all of them. I've seen all of them on the dyno. In terms of making real power or power above and beyond what the stock airbox, not normally. On the dyno, you might see, depending on the horsepower level of the car, we're talking something that makes like 800 to the wheels, you might see 10 or 12 with some of the setups with just that monster, you know, filter hanging off the back. But that's really on the dyno only. On the racetrack, we don't see a whole lot of gain there. But man, the sound is worth it. So, I mean, damn, I've said this over and over again. If it's not for the, I mean, do it just for the theater of having that sound. That's the main thing. White Knuckle saying should have stuck with the stock airbox. Man, a lot of stock airbox cars running 950s. So I'll just leave it at that. Samuel Jackson's asking, honest question, V6 or 5.7 for daily street driving? 5.7. I feel like if I just smash my V6 with 275 rears, I don't have to worry about spinning, where maybe the RT would have to pedal it. It depends on the tire you put on the back of it. The 5.7s are actually a lot of fun to drive. And if they've got a 262 gear, then you've got some wiggle room in terms of, you know, just showering down on it. But yeah, the V6, I don't know, man. The V6, you're going to have a tendency to be in it more often, I think. And I don't think that, you know, unless you're doing a lot of long highway runs, I don't think that there's any benefit to having a V6. And even then, yeah, I just don't see it being that much different over a 5.7. Plus, it comes time to get rid of it. If you ever want to get rid of it, that 5.7 is going to have a desirability factor significantly higher than that V6. So just something to consider. Hey, Slime Cuda, thank you very much with the Hemi donation, 426. Brother, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that. I love it. Thank you, sir. Double thumbs up. I like it. Let's see. Hang on just a second. Let me bump back over here. Dana's asking, have you seen or heard about HHP's aluminum block stroker NA motors and the 7476 size? Anything wrong with them beyond rod ratios and spinning past 6,500 RPM? No, not really anything wrong with them. I mean, it's an aluminum block stroker, so you've got, you know, a weight savings there, which is always good. Just got to get an intake that's going to work for you, man. I mean, a hogged out 6.1, maybe an Elbrock intake that's been very well worked would do well for that setup. But, you know, again, you got to deal with heat soak and all the stuff that comes with that. But the reality is, I mean, it's a big engine. It's going to make some good power. I just would, you're going to have to do some work on an intake system to make it work the way that it really needs to work. But aside from that, nah, you'll be good. Just run a Hellcat throttle body and be fine if you run one of those other intakes. Zachary Doe saying, by the way, you're right with the Mopar cold air intake, even with the Hellcat duct. Yeah, through the open headlight. I'm at 145 and 71 degrees ambient. You're going to change it. By the way, what kind of gains have you seen with long tube headers? Well, the thing about long tube headers on the 392 cars is that you don't pick up any power up top. The cam profile just doesn't allow you to do that. You have a really wide lobe separation angle, and there's not a lot of opportunity for scavenging. You will pick up some torque down low, and you'll pick up some torque under partial throttle conditions as well. So for that alone, I say that they're worth it. Think of them really more of a drivability mod than anything else. I don't like selling long tube headers from a performance standpoint if that performance criteria is outright horsepower. But they do, again, pick up torque down low. They pick up torque under partial throttle circumstances. And the long tubes paired up with a ported intake and a Fastman throttle body and tune is a solid performing platform. And again, you get the added benefit over the stock manifolds of the sound as well. Slime Coot is asking, do the Police 5.7s differ at all from main production units? No, they don't. Aside from some cooling mods, they're just regular old 5.7. Let's see. Mike is saying, thanks for the quick answer. And yes, installed Lake Maker purely for sound and look under the hood. What about reliability issues with pulley and tune? Don't worry about reliability if you go conservative with your pulley and tune. I would say that 285 would be the most aggressive that I would get for the street. And there's plenty of guys running around with 50, 60, 70,000 miles on a Hellcats with 285 and 295 upper pulleys. I would say, if possible, I think Hellraiser is coming out with a 285 or a 295 uncoupling pulley. Certainly look into that. I like the idea of the uncoupling pulley just from a durability standpoint, but it's kind of pricey. And to that point, there's been guys that have been running fixed pulleys on superchargers since the earth cooled. I don't think you have any worry with that in terms of durability. It's just make sure you pin your crank at that point. But lots of guys with lots of miles on lots of Hellcats with those pulley ratios and have not run into anything. Sean E., thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Saying thanks for the chat, B. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much, Sean. Thanks for hanging out with us, man. I do appreciate that very much. Very much. Thank you, sir. Danny's saying the police versions are slightly higher advertised horsepower. I think it's more of a reality in terms of horsepower. But in practice, they're all the same. But they have 5 speeds. They do typically have the Mag 1. I don't know if any of them that have the 8 speeds. And a column shifter with 269 gears, something like that. That is correct. I think it's a 262 they have. Slime Coot is saying, I've seen some wrecked police units with good drivetrains. Need something to put in this D100. Rub it in there, brother. No, that'd be a great way to go. A lot of guys use the SRT, the 6.1, in the engine swap. A little bit easier to do that swap. Just don't forget, if you do that though, you're going to have to run, wheel sensors and all that kind of good stuff too for everything to work properly. Mike's saying thank you, brother. Thank you, and then Dana's saying thanks as well. Well, guys, we are coming up on an hour and a half. I've got to wake up with the Amish in the morning. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. But thank y'all very much for hanging out. Appreciate all of y'all. Great discussion, and cannot wait to visit with you guys on the next one. So that's a wrap on this one. Y'all have a great week.